what's in your wallet.
While the contraception debate raged on Capitol Hill Thursday, Rush Limbaugh gave listeners his take on Sandra Fluck, the Georgetown student that was barred from the House hearing on this issue.
The Georgetown student who went before a congressional committee and said she's having so much sex, she's going broke buying contraceptives and wants us to buy them. I said, well, what would you call someone who wants us to pay for her to have sex? What would you call that woman? He'd call him a slut, a prostitute. We are paying her to have sex.
Let's bring in the panel. Nathan Gonzales, deputy editor for the Rothenberg Political Report and founder of PoliticsInStereo.com, Republican campaign ad maker extraordinaire, Kim Alfano, president and CEO of Alfano Communications, and Shira Toeplitz, politics reporter for Roll Call. Welcome all. All right, let me first give Sandra Fluck a chance to respond. She responded this morning on Today's Show to those Limbaugh comments. Here's what she said.
My reaction was the reaction that a lot of women have had when historically they've been called these types of names, to be stunned by it, but then to quickly feel outraged and very upset. A very important thing for us to think about, that in our society, in certain sectors, this is evidently still acceptable, and that's just very problematic.
Kim Alfano, fair or unfair, Rush Limbaugh and the Republican Party is thought of as one of the leading outside voices in the tent of the Republican Party. He's saying this. How do you react?
It is outrageous. I mean, it is. You know, what's more frustrating to me as a message person for the party is, you know, we took this bait from the president. Granted, the media is pulling us off. I mean, our guys have been talking about the economy, and you'd think if you watch the media coverage of the contraception debate that that's all they've been talking about out there. It's not. They are giving speeches on the economy. But we took the bait, and we went down the rabbit hole, and we need to be talking about the economy, because that's where we're going to win the election. And it's frustrating, and Limbaugh doesn't help. You know, we need to be talking about the economy. We're going to win the race on the economy.
Look, you heard Stephanie Cutter, obviously an Obama surrogate, sitting there and saying, hey, well, the Republican presidential candidates should denounce Rush. But actually, it is one of those moments you think, should the candidates say something? You know, sort of say, wait a minute, that was beyond the pale.
We need to move on. We need to get going. Yeah, it is beyond the pale. I mean, Rush is bombastic. Rush doesn't help right now. Right now, the candidates, no matter what's going on, need to be saying the president's policies are wrong for the country. Bigger government's wrong for the country. More regulation, wrong for the country. We're bad at elections if we're not talking about what's wrong for the country. We need to win the race. If we let this slip, we're doing something wrong.
Yeah, you know, Nathan,
it's such a big ball. It's a big ball, a big softball. Why are we not winning?
You know what Kim brought up? It was 5 straight days, and you know the very disciplined, normally disciplined Senate Republican leadership, Mitch McConnell, 5 straight days. Don Stewart emailing, here's what we're saying about energy today, and here's what we're saying about energy today, and energy. White House sensitive to it. There you go up to Nashua, New Hampshire, have an energy event. But yesterday, the president's talking about energy, and as Kim said, the Republicans were not. It's really blunt. I mean, I heard there was a lot of hand-wringing over why did you go forward with this amendment. There was no need to. You sort of move on.
Right. Republicans are caught. I think one of the consequences of being in the majority is it's tough to agree. I mean, and with Blunt, you know, there's still these ties to the more conservative element of the party, and they have to shift, as Kim said, they have to shift to Obama and the economy, and I think that will happen once the nomination is decided. But for right now, with all of this uncertainty, Republicans have to get on the same page if they have any chance of defeating the president.
You know, I've had some other Republicans say that, you know, this is a case where you're allowing the minority of the party dictate the messaging of the day a little bit too much, where there's just always a concern about, you know, you look at a Mitt Romney, why didn't he go after Rick Santorum on the education stuff? Well, it's because he just, you know, he doesn't want to rile up the conservative base. How sensitive do you see when you cover these members of Congress that they will say privately one thing and say, but I can't say it publicly?
Oh, they say one thing, obviously, for the record, and one thing, you know, when you're talking to them on background or in other terms, they'll be a little more candid about these things. Obviously, sometimes they'll support what the presidential candidates have to say, but many times privately, they say they've gone too far on a lot of these issues and are surprised they aren't more forthright on some issues, like for the education issue you just mentioned.
Kim, is there a benefit for a Republican to sort of say, look, I'm I'm conservative, but I'm not going here. I'm not going. Is there a benefit to, sort of speak? You're involved in one of these tough races where Dick Lugar, you're a consultant for him. He's getting challenged for not being conservative enough. Richard Nixon's favorite mayor apparently is not conservative enough for the Indiana Republican Party. I'm still sort of shell-shocked by that. But is there Lugar standing up, but is there others that need to do that?
Well, they do. And what you'll find is the base of the party does get excited when you talk about the conservative economic policies that people like Lugar do support. I mean, you know, the Keystone Pipeline. We're for the Keystone Pipeline. Let's talk about the Keystone Pipeline. The president messed up there. He really messed up. He stuck his foot in it. If Romney just fixated on the Keystone Pipeline, we'd be against Obama. We'd be talking about the right things, and the conservatives, who may be, you know, somewhat excited about the fact that, you know, originally we were saying the right thing on the contraception thing too. It was an overreach of government. That's really the big issue there. If we'd stuck with that part of it, we might have been okay. But even so, it's superfluous. If we stick with the Keystone Pipeline, that's a great issue, and the base was excited about that too.
Very quickly, let's talk about Ohio. We've got a poll up here. Santorum up 35-31. It feels, you know, does Romney find himself back in the same spot he was pre-Michigan if he loses Ohio?
Well, I think if Romney has the opportunity to put away, not in the delegate count census, but to generate enough momentum where I think it's impossible for Santorum to win. That's if Romney wins
Ohio and maybe even steals a Tennessee.
Right. I mean, but if Santorum gets Ohio, that's going to be a big symbolic victory for him. That's probably going to extend this a little bit.
Sure, you were just there. There is sort of a split. I mean, Ohio, social conservative issues can pop, economic anxieties there too.
Yeah, there are, and I think there's another really interesting split in Ohio too. You have rural versus conservative suburban Republicans there, and I think it's interesting to see Mitt Romney try and play more to those suburban conservatives where Santorum is trying to reach more for those rural voters.
Right. Stick around. I want to talk about something that Kim will enjoy talking about. Some Senate races. That's after the break. But trivia, we asked, which member of